Let's fight. A very good evening, folks, wherever you're joining us from this evening, at home here in Guyana, in the Caribbean, internationally, in the diaspora. We welcome each and every one of you in the ring this evening, and we're so grateful that you've been so gracious with your presence this evening here for the next hour or less or slightly more. An hour of your time to be here with us on the hot topics. We have our pulse on all things political, all things that are happening in Guyana. And we are so privileged again that you could share this time with us. Hope you had a good day at work. Some of you might still be on the job, taking a peek at your smartphones or on the television there on YouTube. And so welcome. Whether you're joining us on Twitter, give us a retweet. Whether you're joining us on Facebook, give us a share there or subscribe to our channel. Follow my page on YouTube, Sharon Avery Duncan, and you'll get the notifications as we come on live. And that's why we ask you guys to subscribe also on YouTube so that you get the latest as we upload videos to our YouTube channel at Sharon Duncan on YouTube. Also, you again will be able to get those notifications in real time. Let me try to see if I can put up some of that information for you. And you can follow me on Twitter at Cherry Duncan. You can follow me on Instagram as well at Cherry Duncan, and YouTube at Cherry Duncan. It's only on Facebook. I get a little Basidi. Add my middle name there, Cherry Avery Duncan on Facebook. If you guys are joining us on the APNU AFC page, give us a share there as well. You're joining us on the Alliance for Change page. Give us a share there as well on my personal Facebook page. You're joining us on Brooklyn, AFC Brooklyn page. Give us a share. You're joining us on Khemraj Ramjattan's page. Give us a share there as well, guys. Wherever you're picking us up from, this evening, we invite your comments, we invite your guidance, we invite you guys to reshare this live stream. We're going to have some guests with us. I already have some of them who are backstage. Already have some of them backstage with us who are going to be part of our program this evening. And folks, we have some breaking news that's coming to us. Our country is embroiled now in a Sputnik-V vaccine scandal involving one sheik out of the United Emirates. We have also lots of other information to share with you. We're going to be joined by Member of Parliament, Leader of the Alliance for Change, Mr. Khemraj Ramjattan. We're going to be joined also by Member of Parliament, Ricky Ramsaroop, and also Member of Parliament, Juretha Fernandes should be joining us and help us to make sense of what is happening, help to give some context. Mr. Ramjattan might use another word, contextualization of all of these issues. We are going to be, unpacking for you this evening. So ensuring that you guys have credible and valid information. We're looking to that magic number there before we start our program this evening. Again, welcome, guys. Trust you guys have had a really, really good day. We're ready at our end to do what we need to do. And we invite you guys to share the live stream, tag a friend or two. Let me see who's joining us here this evening. Folks like Colleen Isaacs and one of our favorites, Karen Black and Idol Rodney, Yvonne McPherson, and also I see Anita. Anita's there. Lucille. Anita has a fancy surname. I don't even want to attempt to call it right now. Samantha Jilks and Lena Williams, Sandra Jones. All of you guys will be joining us from this evening. Our YouTube folks, we want to give you guys a special shout out. Joining us night after night. Our channel there is really growing by leaps and bounds. Our followers there, and we are ever grateful and ever humble that you guys are joining us there. Our Twitter folks have been coming along steadily, and we are thankful for that. And you know that you guys on Facebook, you guys have been our core followers for a very, very long time. And I'm tremendously privileged. We are tremendously privileged that you choose to tune in here night after night. We are very, very privileged for that. Let me just ensure that I have all of my guests here, as I may have shared. 1 second, guys. All right, 1 second for me. Let me try to ensure I have my guests with me. Give me a second. All right. and we had a record day yesterday, and I have some of my guests with me, and I'm going to have them in the ring shortly, guys. But I'm ready as well with our hot topics for this evening, and then I'm going to have them with me, helping me to break down some of what has been happening. You see, I have one of my guests who's already here with me and ready to go, ready to go. And we're going to have him with me shortly. But folks, this is what has been happening during the course of the day. In terms of our hot topics, we have already been seeing, the increase. We've already been seeing the increase in the drug shipments locally. Already been seeing that the increase in the increase of narcotics flowing through our state, and so today, just today, since the PPP come back, the darkness has returned as well. The Kanu has reported this aircraft being found, this burnt out aircraft being found in Kokwani, in an area in Kokwani, and so we're going to be following that. The Bisaruni area there, this burnt out aircraft was found, and so we are going to be keeping our eyes on this. They say they did not find any narcotics or so on the plane or in the area, but it is believed very, very strongly that this aircraft, which is not registered in Guyana or has been reported missing or damaged or whatever, has been part of the transshipment of illicit drugs and narcotics, and we're going to be keeping our eyes on that. And also, we saw this again. If we think in terms of COVID, we saw this. One Kenneth Blunt was appealing for help. He is at the ICU there at Lilliandale on the East Coast, and he has been asking for help. His post on Facebook read, "Good morning. Can you all help me make this post go viral? For the last 4 days, I haven't eaten anything as yet." Right? He said he's literally starved there. "Please help. I'm hungry. Haven't had no breakfast as yet." Wow. This is at the COVID hospital there at Lilliandale, and we're tracking this information as well, folks. And with that, also, we have been looking at this particular issue here, where the members of the public have said, they saw this vehicle which is attached to Deodat Indar, the minister within the ministry, installed minister within the Ministry of Public Works, right? In the rain today, and making it very difficult for lots of drivers as it was going in and out of traffic, and bullying, they say, its way along the public road there. And so we gotta lead by examples as leaders, but these folks, the installed PPP folks, don't understand that, and again, they continue to struggle. They continue to struggle with the English language. Ministers of government, and they can't spell, they can't write. You wonder how sometimes these folks get these positions. This is Pauline Sukai's post on Facebook. Flooded affected family and their children heading back to their home in Creekmouth. Look at the grammar, look at the punctuation. It is so atrocious, right? That a minister would put this on Facebook. Just check this out. It's very, very deficient in so many regards. I thought they had people in private ministries do this kind of work, but even if the minister wanted to do this, she had to spell check and all of that to make sure her grammar and syntax and sentence construction and all of that was in place. But this here is very, very atrocious for a sitting in installed minister. And then, folks, very centrally, we are tracking this Sputnik-V scandal. This Sputnik-V scandal with the government, the installed regime, currently, masquerading as an administration. This is breaking, and I'm going to get some context and contextualization and some guidance from my guest this evening. And with that, I really want to welcome them this evening. Mr. Khemraj Ramjattan is with us, sir.
The ring had a tough day to day after not sleeping right up till 6 a.m. this morning as a result of that elongated parliamentary session yesterday. But up and about as of now, and glad to be in the ring with you.
We are being joined by MP Ricky Dionarayan Ramsaroop. Welcome, sir.
I'm not hearing Ricky.
Right ahead, Ricky. I think we missed that.
Still not hearing Ricky.
Please unmute your mic.
Sorry, my bad. I thought it was the microphone. So I want to say good night to our leader, Khemraj Ramjattan, and you look very fresh now after a long night.
A terrible night.
Yeah, I think it was excellent.
Guys, as we head into our discussion about some of what transpired at Parliament yesterday, and I want to zero in on this whole Sputnik issue. Make sense of some of what transpired yesterday with that particular motion concerning the removal of the Public Accounts Committee chairman.
Well, it was, in my view, a most unparliamentary motion. It ought to have been disqualified. It has a number of defects about it, especially as against what the rules of Parliament are. The biggest one being that it is the opposition that has to appoint and select the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. It is that singular committee of Parliament whereby, because of a certain peculiar history and a certain peculiar purpose, the opposition and only the opposition is asked to chair it. Because it is the committee questions and scrutinizes government spending, the majority over 300 years in England, in Parliament, the majority party has always granted, as a matter of unwritten rule called convention, the power to the opposition to balance the equilibrium in that committee by virtue of granting to the opposition the chairmanship. We had that convention in Guyana, and in 2006, under what is called a very robust parliamentary reform process, we then wrote that into our standing orders of Parliament. Standing orders is like the constitution of the Parliament in an order called 82.2. And in that order, which was agreed to unanimously by everybody, PPP, PNC at the time, and there might have been a WPA parliamentarian at that time too, 2006 or thereabouts. But I can recall that when it was done, we all agreed unanimously that it is the main opposition. I remember Gail asking for that, Gail Teixeira. And then we put it into our standing orders that the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee shall be a member of the main opposition. So it is not at the confidence of the governing party or the confidence of the whole National Assembly that the chairperson is named. The chairperson is named and selected and appointed exclusively at the confidence, once he's found fit and proper, by the opposition. And we now see that they could gotten through with a no confidence motion within that committee for certain procedural hurdles that they couldn't cross, then they now come to the larger parliament with their majority, and they have created what is called a very majoritarian, tyrannical resolution stating that the National Assembly doesn't have confidence in David Patterson, and they now will pass a resolution to that effect simply because they have their 33 members there. But the entire gravamen, the entire purpose and foundation for that standing order was exclusively at the appointment, at the agreement within the members of the opposition. And we had all agreed that it is David Patterson. So it is a fundamental violation of one of the guardrails of the financial architecture and the scrutinizing architecture of our public, in our public accounts committee there. It is but a dismantling of yet another guardrail of democracy in Guyana, democracy here in the context of the financial scrutiny by the Public Accounts Committee. And the reason that they gave of certain things to do with scales and all, from an Auditor General's report of sometime in 2015, has absolutely no statement in it. That is the Auditor General's statement that the minister was at fault. In Guyana, it is not. Whenever these unbecoming happenings occur, the public, or the what we call them, the permanent secretaries, PSs, they're the ones who have to answer for these things. And in that context, we didn't have any direct failure on the part of the minister, but they want to put 2 and 2 together to come to 22 instead of 4 and make the thing a whole big mockery. Thank God we also got some very important pieces of information from other members who were inside of that committee that explained what was the true nature of the facts. Ganesh Mahipal made an extremely important speech last night, and quoting from the Hansard, like Gail Teixeira and Bishop Edgell had forgotten that Hansard is also done in these various committees, and their lying nature was exposed last night. I know when they're saying that the man was bullying them, David Patterson, in relation to not listening to what even the speaker was saying. The speaker instructed David Patterson on a certain day to have a meeting and then carry on with whatever he had instructed. The next day, the speaker had also closed down Parliament and all the committees of Parliament. So David Patterson could not have executed on the instruction of the speaker, saying that how he was bullied, that he was not, listening and adhering to the speaker's instruction. I am glad that the speaker knew of all of this now. But in any event, they went through their motion. They vote 33. I think they got 34 votes because Schumann also supported them, and we got our 31 votes against. Now, it is something that I feel that we ought to defy, because they have no right to indicate who should not be there. Not only do we have the right as opposition as to who should be there, they also do not have the right, that is the government, as to who should not be there. They can't go and say, well, we don't want David Patterson. That is not what their standing order means when it says that it shall come from the main opposition party. And apparently, all of them lack the simple understanding of this English formulation. I don't know if they wanted it in Russian or in Sputnik or whatever. This thing is so severe. A penalty. Yeah. And so I thought it was a terrible night, because for the first time, they have passed a no confidence motion on a person who they ought not to, all their members, none of their members really having that power to do that because of Standing Order 82-2.
Thank you very much, MP Ramjattan. We're joined by MP Juretha Fernandes, but I want to pick Ricky's brain on his general thoughts very briefly on how the day went yesterday.
Look, Shara, thank you. And I think Khemraj put it in a nice summary there as to what really transpired. It was a very long night, and we were ready as young parliamentarians to take the fight to the end. I wanted our viewers to know that, first of all, good night to all our viewers. And all those commentary that are the side, especially those with the mental laziness attitude, I want to welcome you to the In the Ring program, and good night to you and your family. Look, this here is a precedent has been set. The chief whip, Gail Teixeira, said that she don't have to state a reason for a motion. How can you just come up and set a motion without a reason? You ought to have a reason for a motion. You just can't come out of thin air. They are abusing their power, and they are going back to what we call a control freakism that Khemraj always speak about. You cannot do that. It is as Khemraj pointed out, it is the main opposition has to get the chairman of that committee. Now, you had an installed president here now who had 19 fraud charges, and we allow him to function in that capacity. Do you know what she said yesterday in our speech? We should have known that, and we should have taken action. So you can clearly see the difference between our side and their side, and see who is the real bully. You understand? They are making a false claim that David Patterson being bullied. How can a chairman be bullied? You hear quite clearly yesterday that Ganesh spoke about the PSC members waiting on them to arrive before they can start a meeting. You understand? And so on many occasions there were quorums, but when they're not present there, he doesn't start the meeting. So to come to the parliament and waste an entire day on a motion for what you call it for a committee to ensure that transparency happen, you wanted to disqualify that? Suppose we put, let's say, for example, Juretha there. You're going to go dig something to put her, remove her? Is that what you're saying? Suppose you move her and we're going to put Ganesh. Is that what you wanted to happen? Because Chuma definitely can't be there because he's not a opposition leader. So the precedent that they're setting here is going to haunt them forever. And I want Khemraj and the other senior politicians to know that, because we young politicians ain't going to take it easy. You understand? Because we're going to take the fight to the end. And if that's what they want, that is what they're going to get.
Thanks very much, MP Ramsaroop. MP Fernandes, your thoughts on how yesterday went?
What part of it? I noticed that you guys were speaking about
generally how the day went.
Well, first of all, good night, Sherrod. Good night to the panel and all the viewers. Yesterday was more so. I'll speak to the motion first. The motion to remove David Patterson went exactly how I expected it to go. We all knew that going into that debate, once the speaker allowed that motion to the floor, there was only one way that it would have been going. The PPP have a majority in the House, and they were going to use a majority to pass that motion. So we went in there because it's absolutely important for us to have within the Hansard and the records of the Parliament every single word that comes out of the representatives of the PPP's mouth. Because for me personally, Sherrod, I believe that the PPP should be made to live with the precedents that they set there last night. I believe that they should be made to live with it. And when they're back in the opposition benches, they should have to deal with the consequences of the motion that they brought to the House last night. Because we all know, Sharon, they ain't got nobody with more fraud charges and more charges than the members of the PPP. We all know that the ministries that they are sorts of, they are throughout the Auditor General's report, every single ministry, questions. The motion that was brought to the House by the PPP, by Gail Teixeira, and like I said, and I'll repeat it here, Gail Teixeira entered politics 11 years before I was born. She is a career politician. She has been there forever. And when you are to read the 16 clauses in that motion that she brought before the House, it makes no sense. She didn't seek to make sense of what she was trying to do. She did not give a reason to justify why she wanted Patterson removed, because there was no reason to give. What the PPP did last night was come to the House and bring a motion just because they know they can to remove the chairman of the PAC. This is an action that has never been done ever in any other Commonwealth Parliament. At one point in time when the motion was brought at the level of the committee, of the Public Accounts Committee, the clerk went out and he sought advice on how he should deal with it, because it has never been done at the Parliament of Guyana. The clerk came back and he said he spoke to the group of clerks in the Parliament of the Commonwealth, and they could not give him not one instance in which a sitting government brought a no confidence motion against the chairman of the PAC, because the implications are far reaching. It is a dictatorial action. The government is trying to control who scrutinize their spending. It is nothing simple, and we cannot take it simple. I believe that there's a lot that went on yesterday. Besides that, the PP went on. Oh, when it comes to the debate, I always encourage persons to go back and listen to the debate yourself. The PPP brought a motion to the House, and they could not defend the motion themselves. They got up and spoke about all sorts of nonsense because they had no collective point to be made as to why this man should not be the chair of the PAC. They did not come and say, oh, because there's this charge. They can't come and say that, sure. You know why? Because when that matter is done and it gets kicked out of the court, then they would have nothing else to hold against him from chairing the committee. So they don't want to put themselves in that bracket. And they know that if that was the case, the matter would have been deemed sub judice and would not have been able to be even debated in the House. So they came, like you rightly said in your speech, with this clause saying there were certain revelations, certain exposures at the level of the committee that made them bring a motion, which is utter nonsense. They did not have a reason, and I think you pressured Gail a bit yesterday, and she actually had to say that. But we don't have to have a reason. That's what she said at the level of the PSC. Their action was sanctimonious, it was vindictive, it was malicious, and I hold to my thinking that the PPP, when they are back in the opposition, should be made to live with the results of the motion that they brought to the House last night. I believe that is the only way in which you can deal with them. Shared, before we even debated the motion yesterday, some very important things happened because we were into the Committee of Supplies, in which we have to question the ministers about monies that they're coming for approval at the level of the National Assembly. I believe it's very important. I don't know if you touched on any bit of it before, but a lot of times our supporters question why we're going to Parliament, and a lot of persons think that we should go, a lot of persons think that we should not go. But it's days like yesterday that I really appreciate the fact that we were there in the House and that we were able to drill into certain things and to actually question the ministers to the level at which we questioned them yesterday, because the revelations that we got there yesterday, we could not have gotten had we not been to Parliament, had we not attended
certain
Parliament.
exposures.
Exactly. And I think, Sharon, I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if you touched on it a bit, but a lot of important matters came up with the Sputnik-V, that is just one of them. We had matters coming up with the police force and the vehicles that they're purchasing to basically create a a different unit altogether. And I think that is something that we need to go into very, very heavily, because those are serious concerns. You have how many vehicles for it? I can't even remember the number right now.
So MP, let's pick up on this Sputnik-V because
Okay,
that is very
sure.
critical. And I think you've set it up very nicely by talking about you guys have set it up very nicely by talking about the importance of the Public Accounts Committee and the far-reaching implications, as you all have said, of removing the chair, because it is the committee headed by an opposition member who scrutinizes the spending of the government. So when you move the chair, the first way it looks is as though you don't want the scrutiny that this person is gonna bring to bear on your spending. Less than 24 hours later, we have a very, very detailed reporting coming out of one of the Norwegian papers, which spotlights Guyana and our purchase of the Sputnik vaccine through one gentleman, let me get his name properly, called Ahmed Dalmouk, right? Who is from Saudi Arabia, from the Al Maktoum family. He was a guy that they brought here and had him all over the place, roll out the red carpet. Now, the Norwegian newspaper is saying that lots of the persons who's affiliated with him and selling these Sputnik vaccine, they are wanted by the Norwegian authorities. But I want to play for us the leader of the opposition, Joseph Harman, drilling the Minister of Health yesterday on where these vaccines are being purchased from. Firstly, we're going to hear a little bit about them talking about the spoilage of these vaccines. Believe it or not, this is one of the things that went unreported. The government has spoiled lots of COVID-19 vaccines. So take a listen, and then I want to get your impression of how this whole thing, of how this very, very shady purchasing of COVID vaccine is happening. Vaccines are happening, is happening rather, and at this exorbitant price, twice the market price. Let's take a listen. Please mute your mics for me.
It has been augmented with -20. So we have a walk-in freezer at Kingston with -20 capability. We also have 10 freezers at Kingston with -70 or -80 capabilities. We also have at the Diamond, at MMU Diamond, we have a container there that is capable of storing at -20. We also have a similar arrangement in Region 6, and we have repurposed one of the freezers in Region 10 to have similar capacity. We have also, over the last several months, built more than 15 locations that can serve as regional hubs, and we have equipped them to ensure that they have capabilities to take in vaccines. We have also, in addition to that, we have been running regular flights to all the different destinations using dry ice, because some of the vaccines that we are using to transport them require that they be transported at -20. And to be able to have that type of temperature, we have bought the right containers to move those vaccines around, and also to make sure that we have a constant supply of dry ice when we are moving those vaccines around. And so one can appreciate, if you're moving vaccines, say from Latam to go to Aishalton, and if you're going to vaccinate someone in Aishalton with Sputnik-V, that we have to use containers that would be equipped with dry ice to move the vaccines there, and then we thaw it out to give those vaccines. And we have been doing that right across the hinterland. So the logistics of moving vaccines, moving dry ice, supplementing the dry ice, that is done on a daily basis with a number of partners, which include the Guyana Defense Force, who has been helping us to get dry ice to a lot of these locations. In some cases, we have been using some of the private aircraft to get dry ice to those locations. And the manufacturers of dry ice locally is Banks, DIH, and DDL. So every day we are purchasing dry ice from them to make sure that we have adequate supplies to take out these vaccines, keep them at the right temperature until we are able to give it to someone. So yes, we have adequate cold chain from the top right down to the regional level, and we use these containers to take out vaccines to any one of the villages that you can think. You would recall that we had a case when a team went into guns, and because of that, they had to spend a longer time than was anticipated, more than 3 days. And because of the conditions of the landing strip, no plane could have gone in to pick them up. And because of that, we had some spoilage of vaccines there because we couldn't maintain the cold chain. So we had to discard those vaccines. So these are the practical challenges that we face when we are rolling out this immunization program. Nevertheless, we have been able to make a lot of progress, I would say, with more than 44.3% or so nationally being vaccinated with first dose vaccines.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Dr. Cummings.
Yes, I don't have any further question except to say I would like to have the list of the regional hubs where they are located. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I know
Mr.
the Honorable
Speaker.
Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, sir. Honorable Minister, we understand that this is money that has already been spent. What I would like to find out from you is what vaccines did we purchase? How many did we purchase? And from whom were these purchases made? It wasn't answered. I asked the question, how many vaccines by type were purchased? What price did we pay for them? And from whom did we purchase these vaccines? That's the question.
Thank you, Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much, Honorable Harman, for the question. As I said before, with this contingency, we have been able to purchase 200,000 doses of Sputnik-V vaccines. And we have also purchased 100,000 doses of the Sinopharm vaccines. With the Sputnik-V vaccine, we have been supplied through the United Arab Emirates and through the offices of Mr. Ahmed Dalmood Al Maktoum, and he has, through his offices, have been supplying us with the Sputnik vaccines. With the Sinopharm vaccines, the manufacturer of the vaccine
folks, there we have it.
has been supplying us with those vaccines.
The minister telling the nation that they have been dealing with Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum. And this is a very, very serious piece of reporting coming out of a very, very credible newspaper, Norwegian newspaper, tying the Sheikh there to all kinds of shady dealing. I mean, if you multiply the fact that Russia itself is selling this vaccine at $10 US per vaccine, and they are selling it at over $20 US. A lot of money is being made here. Khemraj is a senior person, as a senior person, member of parliament here. What are your thoughts listening to this?
Well, knowing now that it came via an intermediary that is a very shady, questionable character, Al Maktoum, out of United Arab Emirates, not Saudi Arabia, UAE, this thing got, in my view, plenty corruption. It reminds me of the days when the Chinese company was given the contract to build Skeldon. And of course, again, the man behind it is Bharat Jagdeo. A couple of weeks ago or months ago, he did an interview and was asked about that red carpet welcome they gave to Al Maktoum with his private jet landing at the Guyana airport here. And he indicated that that is how they generally will get it, and so on. Let me say this. When we did the calculation, it came up almost $20 or just above US
24.
for the Sputnik vaccine. And what we now know is that the Russian government and also the WHO has put out what is called a program in which it's give roughly the prices of all this, the Sputnik, the Pfizer, the Moderna. Yes, you could see there, the man's private jet came in and they gave him the royal treatment, you know. And what we got from the WHO is that the price for this thing ought to be sold at about $10 per dose. Sputnik. And what we now have is about $957 million. Guyana, as announced last night by the Honorable Minister, that is what he paid for 200,000 doses. It comes up about 20. So almost $10, over $600 million more than when you would have normally done the transaction with the original people. Of course, the excuse is being made that they're not getting it any place. But I am absolutely certain, had they gone and asked the Russian ambassador in Guyana and to have a direct state to state, because Russia is a state that is producing these things. And most of the companies that produce these vaccines in Russia are state-owned. So you could have done that. But you know, you do it through somebody else. You're going to get a portion of the money, as the international corrupt specialists have spoken about. And that is obviously what I believe happened here. Same thing.
Some of the guys that came on the Sheikh's entourage that we're seeing here are wanted by the Norwegian police for fraud and all manner of things.
Yes, and look at the country. Norwegian, one of the most democratic, one of the safest countries to ever live in, one of the countries that has an extraordinarily high degree of integrity in how they do their governance issues. And it is a country that we have been dealing with in relation to certain red funds, $80 million of which is still there in a certain bank for Guyana from Norway. And we now go
as the public watches this, I want to point out the gentleman you see in a sweatsuit there pulling that suitcase. He's one of the fellas wanted by the Norwegian authorities.
Yes, the thing has its international corrupt character about it. It's a massive kind of thing, and this is what we know. We know how Jagdeo associate. You remember when he wanted that corrupt commissioner to come into the country? So much corrupt transactions in and around his administration, and now, right, Guyanese got to literally deal with this other major corruption here, where roughly we overpaid $600 million for our Sputnik. And this was done in the dark of times. They didn't bring this thing before into Parliament and ask so that we could have asked questions. They went into the monies, big set of monies, you know, $1.2 billion, they said. And being contingencies is a set of appropriations that you do that the opposition can't question it prior to the transactions. But they will have an obligation to report it thereafter. That is what happened last night. They reported, and thank God we asked all these questions, and we now got where they got it from, how much it was paid, how much vaccines was purchased for. the scrutiny that
And
an
MPs,
in Parliament.
with that, and with what we now know, it is interesting because at an hour like this, the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee should have been able to call on the Auditor General to start an investigation on this matter.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that they're afraid of David Patterson for, because he, as chairperson, would certainly be brave enough to call all these things. But they don't want him. They like the fact that the PAC is not doing any work right now.
Look, Sherrod, I think on another angle, the minister itself stated right in Parliament there, if you look continue in the video, that the WHO didn't, the Sputnik-V didn't went through the process. It was still in trial stage. However, just like the AstraZeneca, which was also didn't went through the full stage, but went on a list by the WHO. However, for the Sputnik-V, it didn't went on the list by WHO, but yet we are going to purchase it. And what are the reasons for that? Now that we have, as Khemraj rightly said, that we have questioned it in Parliament, you can see exactly why they're going after the Sputnik-V, because they already.
And Ricky, I'm happy you mentioned that it hasn't been approved by the WHO, because in this reporting out of this very, very credible Norwegian newspaper, they have said that the European medicines agencies also have not approved the vaccines for use. This Sputnik-V.
Yeah, so that is what, but the whole thing here is about the corruption that we unearthed yesterday, and Juretha is quietly so right. Some of our commentary at the side, people want to know why we're still doing in Parliament. But this is what we do. If we did not stay there last night, you would have never known what we have unearthed.
Who they purchased the vaccine from and how much?
That's right.
You understand? So we have to stay
make
there.
a point on that score. You will have a lot of people who will want to persuade us parliamentarians not to be in Parliament. I don't know what the motives and their reasoning behind the thing. But this country has a Parliament that is functioning, not necessarily 100%, but whatever it is, we ought to be there to ask the very important questions. And parliamentary democracy means that the opposition must be in Parliament. That does not mean that we must not take other political action in other places.
Correct.
We must go to demonstrate. We must not go out and picket. And we must not be on the ground with our supporters supporting them. But don't ever be influenced by these comments on the side that tell you all kinds of things. I mean, it is something that I am very critical of. Sometimes the tail wants to wag the dog, and that is not how parliamentary and democracies must be run. We are very much understanding of the need and the frustrations of the people out there. But you leave Parliament, you leave an important forum, especially being parliamentarians too, is that we could go talk to the diplomatic community because they recognize the Parliament. So it is important that people don't understand that.
Correct. That's a very solid point, Khemraj. And you know, Sharon would agree with me. You know, we have to stand in Parliament. This is where we're gonna question. You understand? You guys were the presenter was amazing last night, where you put them exactly. And every time you find that the ministers them can't answer the question, they put a parliamentary a political argument. Listen to every single speech from their side, and you will see it. Every time they cannot answer a question, they go to our political speech, especially the finance minister. We call it the senior minister, something.
I agree with you. Right? I agree with you. They're going back to 1980, all kinds of years to find some argument to justify what they are doing. And Ricky, you raised an important point just now. And Khemraj, even when Khemraj talks about this guardrail and us removing and breaking down and dismantling, right? The guardrails of our democracy, all of those are important discussions for us to have. This is what the World Health Organization, according to these credible newspapers out of the Norwegian newspaper VG, it goes by that name, VG, and they have quoted the WHO as saying to describe the situation as a catastrophic moral failure, a failure that increases the risk of new virus mutation and which will be paid for in lives and livelihoods according to WHO. This is what is happening currently. And with this, bring all of this propensity, as Khemraj says, for corruption with the sale of vaccines on the black market and by all of these shady means.
The Minister of Education says yesterday all hippocytes. Don't forget.
Yeah.
Sure, hippocytes across the side.
Not hypocrites, hippocytes. Juretha? Khemraj?
Yeah, no. Well, Juretha wanted to make a point.
No, actually, what I was about to say is that the actions of the PPP to remove Patterson as chair, it was never about David Patterson, first of all. And I believe that we all should acknowledge that first and foremost. They never had an issue with David Patterson as a person. They just wanted to do anything that they could have done to disrupt the workings of the Public Accounts Committee. It mattered not who was there as the chairman of that committee. They would have come with a motion, and like Tashira said, she doesn't have to give a reason. From the inception, one of the things that Patterson made very clear is that he is going to order an audit into COVID relief, the distribution of those monies. Those are things that PPP does not want. Now, when I look at this whole issue with the Sputnik-V scandal, Sherrod, it is sad, but it is a fact that the PPP uses disastrous events to gamble even with people's lives when it comes to getting a hustle and a side deal here and there. That is the brutal truth of what is going on there. We all knew that when there was a visit from the Sheikh to Guyana, there was a public call for some sort of report as to what are you meeting with these people about. That could not have been done. When we had Pompeo come to Guyana, the same thing. You can't get a proper report as to what these meetings are about. But when you know the nature of the beast that you're dealing with, we already can assume, based on history, what these meetings are about. So when that article surfaced today, I was not the least bit surprised. It is damning. It is a very damaging article on there. And the article quoted from the vice president. You know, it's crazy. It's cruel to the people of this country that you're going to use a pandemic to make a and make a deal and a side bargain. It's cruel.
MPs Khemraj and Ramsaroop and Ramjattan, as we look to program time, I want to shift just a little bit, but keeping in context with this national disaster that we have, the pandemic, COVID-19 and the flood and all of that. Today, Georgetown was flooded. Incidentally, Georgetown was flooded. Incidental to that, the previous minister under the Ministry of Infrastructure, that was now Public Works, was the outgoing chair of the PAC committee, right? Mr. David Patterson. We haven't seen Georgetown flood in years to this extent. This was Georgetown today. I want us to give some thought to that, right? And so Georgetown was spared basically for the last 2 weeks, while other places had really lots and lots of water, right? But now the city is underwater. I don't know at this hour what it looks like, but that was early on in the day. Your thoughts as we look at program time very quickly?
No, well, it is important to understand that none of the preparatory works, none of the support for the city council is being given or done by the government of Guyana, the central government. And that is what is going to happen to our city. It is going to be deliberately be made more wretched and hazardous as a result of the national policies of their Fernandes government. They don't want to go and talk and engage with our mayor. They don't want to go and ensure that the monies are given to him. What they would like to do is at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at the night, go to some coca and find out who and who's sleeping. And then for nasty purposes of showing a racial approach to the issue, that look who not sleeping. And that is to speak to their support base. Look how a black man been asleep there and he cause a flood out because the coca not open. Look, there is every deliberate move here, deliberate move to do that. Ethnocracy. It was mentioned last night, an ethnocratic state. And I could understand Roysdale when he makes that statement. Gail, of course, said that it was unparliamentary and the speaker disallowed Gail. The speaker told Roysdale to continue. But this is what their entire purpose is. They don't want to go and spend money, get the cocas open in time, repaired, rehabilitated, all the connecting drains into the main canals, and all those that are stuck with so much what you call plastic bottles and all. No. But look what you got to live with now, next to State House and all, flooded out. It is crazy. And so when you don't want to prepare, when you don't have a love for your city, that is what happens. And it will happen in worse all over the country because, as I have said, the rains are falling heavily too. But if you would have done your preparatory work, you would not have gotten that. We did it for after that bad one in the first months that we had in office. We never had back from 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, right up to 2020. Nothing of the sort during the May, June. None. But they just have to adopt that which we did in our administration. But their function now is to dismantle everything, every administrative arrangement, every act and approach. And this is what you got. Flooding, COVID deaths, you're going to get a whole set of hardships and economic impacts that really going to make Guyanese suffer because all of this flooding all across the country and the city, as the local quarantine man tell me, melt out all them crops, rice, bygone, bora, everything gone, fowl and duck even. You understand? And this is sheep and goat and cattle and everything, livestock and poultry and everything. What we will have is an impact down the line that is going to have dastardly, really, really serious consequences for us.
Yeah. Juretha? Ricky?
Actually, what I can say, just one comment on that. I think David Patterson had put out a really good piece in which he explained that he had a system set up that a mechanism, an entire unit set up with the workers so that they monitor these systems all over to the point that if you live in a specific area, that it would have been easier for you to go and monitor the systems you were assigned to that area and so forth. But when the PP got into government, they dismantled that entire arrangement that was put in place. So when you see these things happening, it's always because there is poor administration going on, and the PP is not capable and efficient in dealing with any of these things. They're too busy making $1 million deals behind the scenes, cutting deals under the tables and so forth. They're not paying attention to these things. The president went out in the middle of the night to actually check to see if somebody is sleeping and so forth. They're not prepared to deal with the real issues that affect Guyanese people. I certainly believe that they do not care much about what happens to poor, ordinary citizens in this country. So I'll close by saying that.
Yeah. Ricky?
Listen, it's called blights. You understand what I'm saying? You must understand that what I'm saying here. We have spent over $2.9 billion on drainage and irrigation in our time. And we have set up pumps right across the East Coast here at several places. Do you know how we do it? And this is all praise to our former Agriculture Minister, Mr. Noah Hola. Do you know how we do it? I want to say the publicize a media thing and so on. Those are nonsense. His actions speak louder than words. The man sit down and calculate the area size that people are living and know the capacity when the rain falls, how many inches of rain would fall, and then set up the pumps to deal with that in certain amount of time. That's how you deal with flood.
They deal with it based on the capacity of their friends trying to take the contracts. Who can get the contracts?
So
That's how they deal with it.
if you
Look,
can't calculate it and you
Yeah.
can't understand that the mechanism used there, then you're gonna have what you're seeing there in your video.
Yeah. Khemraj, the final word goes to you.
Yeah, no. We are becoming, again, based on the Al Maktoum connections, these individuals that we have in government, especially the former president, we are becoming once again a criminalized state. From 2015 to 2020, we managed to wipe off and delete from the architecture of the Ghana society a lot of criminalities. But all I noticed coming back right down to all the contracts and the nonsensical arrangements they're making now with hundreds and hundreds of $1 million of overpricing to people who are not supposed to get these contracts. And as a state and a government, we could deal directly. Reports are now coming out that we did not contract with Pfizer in November last year for a number of the Pfizer vaccines. And we missed an opportunity. Obviously, certain people wanted to deal with Maktoums rather than the Pfizer, the actual manufacturer. You know? And this is what we're going to get. And the arrogance of the PPP, now that they've gotten installed there an arrangement of 33 plus the one with Schumann, their arrogance is going to exude by virtue of all their activities that they will do now, notwithstanding the flood and so many other economic hardships that are being faced, the purchasing power of the salaries and the income of people diminishing vastly. So their arrogance, it's going to be a criminalized state with the toxic combination of arrogant governance methods. It is going to be a big, big disaster. And I want to warn Guyanese here and overseas that we have to put a halt to this thing.
Brace for some serious impact.
Yeah.
That's what they have to do.
MPs Khemraj Ramjattan, Juretha Fernandes, Ricky Ramsaroop, thanks for joining in the ring this evening. And folks, as we go, sanitize, social distance, wear your mask, practice all of the other COVID-19 protocols all there for your health and your safety. And do stay safe as we continue to promote the truth and defend the facts here in the ring. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Jared.
Good night, everyone.